Once again, a very warm welcome and a very good morning to everybody who's joined in today's session for the masterclass. Our topic for today, as you can see on your screens, understanding the need for designing and implementation of the ISO IEC 27001 ISMS, or Information Security Management Standard. As far as cybersecurity is concerned, ISO 27001 is one of the most important frameworks, and we are going to have a discussion around this framework. And our expert for today, Ruda Barar. She is a security professional who spans with a bachelor's and a master's degree with a specialization in an MTech in information security. In addition to that, her experience spans across multiple domains, and she's worked with quite a few organizations, with the major specialization being around the area of information security. She's been actively involved and does come with multiple certifications, including but not limited to the EC Council Certified Security Analyst, the IBM ones, and she's also undergone the BSI Training Academy for ISO 27001-2013. It's a pleasure to have her on the ANFOC platform. So I'd request you to give her a warm welcome. And Ruda, you can get the session started. Thank you.
A very warm welcome to every one of you, and good morning. And thank you so much, Kaushik, for that amazing introduction. I hope that I'm audible. I'm clearly audible. And if there is any kind of disturbance, please do let me know, Kaushik and or Himanshu, while you're here. If you can hear any kind of disturbance or anything, do let me know.
Sure thing. Just a quick point, guys. If you have any questions, please start putting them into the chat window. We'll definitely pick those questions up. Thanks.
All right. So yes, today's topic is understanding the need for designing and implementation of the ISMS. So ISMS is in itself a huge framework. It is pretty overwhelming, but I do not want to make that overwhelming for you guys. So what we'll be discussing today is nothing but the understanding about what is to be done to put into effect the ISMS framework. What are the requirements, understanding the clauses that are applicable to the framework, the different kind of controls that are available in the framework, and how should an organization should go ahead, how should an organization should go ahead in terms of implementing the framework, and we as auditors, what should we inquire about, what should be done in the requirements gathering phase. So everything we'll go through the entire process step by step. Yeah. So if you can just give me a minute. Okay. Yeah, I was facing some issue with the slides, so I would like to continue now. So now I hope you guys must be aware about my introduction and everything that is mentioned here, but it is an ongoing process. I'm still learning, and there is a long way to go. Along with all the certifications and everything, I believe that I would be pretty much capable to help you understand the ISMS standard. So today's agenda is understanding the background of ISMS, understanding the importance, understanding the roadmap, what is it about the plan, do, check, act cycle, the certain important terms and concepts that we need to be aware about, understanding the clauses, the controls, and the very most important topic, which I believe everyone here is interested in knowing about, is the career opportunities, other career opportunities that people can have in terms of the standard, ISO 27001 standard. So beginning with the background. So just to give you an update about the history, the ISMS was not actually ISMS initially. It was known as the British Standard 7799. So it started in 1995 when British Standard introduced a general framework or a general standard rather guidelines that were needed to understand what is it about information security, what involves around information security. So gradually the British standard started introducing different versions, or started introducing revisions to the information security management standards. Initially, by that time, it was not known as ISO 27001 standard that we are now aware about. Initially, it was just known as BS 7799. So throughout all the revisions, different updates were introduced to the standard in terms of guidance of usage, in terms of code of practice, and then product development change act, which we now call it as plan, do, check and act cycle, was introduced to the standard. And after that, in July 2005 and 27002 ISO standard was introduced. So now we know it as Annexure A, or now we know that 27002 is nothing but the controls that are available in the ISO 27001 standard. But initially, ISO 27002 was a completely different standard in itself. So gradually, it happened that ISO 27002 was incorporated in ISO 27001 itself. And from 2013 onwards, an updated version was introduced about the ISMS standard, and now it is pretty much known as the ISO IEC 27001 2013 standard. Every 4 to 5 years, the national bodies introduced upgradation to the standard. But because they were about to introduce a new version in 2020 as well, but because of the pandemic, the national bodies are not coming together and introducing any updates. So for now, we are using the standard that we have. The standard is nothing but the document. It includes the guidelines that an organization should abide by or should follow to maintain its or improve its information security posture. So we'll now start exploring about what is this ISO IEC 27001 standard. So it is a part of the cybersecurity industry. Cybersecurity industry is not just limited to ethical hacking or VAPT or just cryptography or areas related to that. It is much more than that. And ISO IEC is part of it. Standardization is a part of it. So what is it? We must be aware about HIPAA. We must be aware about PCI DSS. We are aware about GDPR. These three, what I mentioned, are sort of regulations. They ensure that an organization or a company or an entity should follow that. They need to abide by that, because that involves processing a lot of personally identifiable information about a customer, about a client, or an user. ISO IC is more of an ISO 27001 is more of a standard that an organization can follow. It provides guidelines to the organization that what should be done in terms of improving it. It depends on the organization's side whether they want to go for ISO 27001 certification or not. Why? Because there are several things attached to the implementation, because of the budget, because of lack of expertise or lack of expert panel amongst the organization, or just because the organization feels that it is not applicable to them. But if an organization chooses to go for it, what is to be done? So first, ISO means, it is a Greek word which means to equalize something into in the whole world. So if you look into it in terms of, or use it in terms of the standard, we can understand that ISO IC is nothing but standardizing something, using some guidelines throughout the entire process and throughout the organization. So ISO IC are two different national bodies. There are and there are several members involved in these two national bodies. These national bodies develop different kind of information technology or different technology based or electronic based standards. But once ISO came up with introducing an information security standard, but the standard was so vast that the national body realized that the body cannot develop a standard all by itself. So it entered into a JV, a joint venture with IEC, and they established and decided to implement or introduce information security based standard for the world. And from that day onwards, they are preparing draft of those versions. They circulate among their bodies the different versions, and a voting takes place that which is the best version, or which is the best draft. And then that draft is published, and then we know it as a standard. So that is the background about the ISO IEC 27001 standard. So when you try to understand about what is this standard, what does this standard do? So it basically focuses on improving the information security posture of an organization. It makes the organization secure from all the three ways, or all the three aspects. Now, what are those three aspects? The three aspects, most important aspects of an organization, the base of an organization is its people, technology, and process. And these are the three things that ISO IC, the standard focuses on. It strengthens its people, its technology, and process. It focuses on improving the confidentiality, availability, and integrity of the organization, which is commonly known as the CIA triad, right? So it ensures that and the data that the organization processes is confidential in nature. Only legitimate and authorized users or subjects are able to access that data. The data is always available whenever it is needed. How to ensure business continuity is an important aspect of availability, and ISO 27001 standard. It ensures integrity, which means that throughout the life cycle, no data is duplicated, no amount of data is redundant, and the accuracy is maintained. So these are the three aspects. It first focuses on people, technology, and process. And through these three aspects, the standard ensures that it follows the CIA triad. So these are the three basic fundamental concepts of cybersecurity that the ISO 27001 standard covers. So next, about the importance of the standard. So how does the standard begins? So it starts with identifying the threats, identifying the vulnerabilities, identifying the risk associated. So what can be the threats? Who can be the threats to the organization? They can be the outsiders, the inadvertent users, or the malicious insiders. So what are they? Outsiders are nothing but the malicious hackers who do it for maybe money gain, maybe for monetary benefits, or maybe because of they are hired by competition, or they just want to disrupt a properly functioning process. What are the inadvertent actors? They can be people, they can be the employees of the organization who do some unintentional activities, or what we call them as humor errors. The malicious insiders are those who on purpose try to compromise the protocols and cause breaches. For example, circulating or providing internal and classified information about an organization to the competitors. So all these are nothing but the threats. And what are the different kind of vulnerabilities available in the organization? What would be the risk associated with those threats? ISO standard helps in identifying everything that is related to that. Next, this will help us understand the purpose of the ISMS. So ISMS not only ensures that information security is followed in an organization, information security is followed in an organization, or information security standard is abided by people in the organization, but it also helps the organization to streamline its processes, to streamline its day-to-day activities. It helps the organization to identify what are the key aspects of the organization, what are the crown jewels, what are the key assets that belongs to the organization. It helps them in identifying their stakeholders, their customers, and what would happen to their customers, what will happen to their customers if a risk, or for example, a ransomware attack takes place, who all will be affected, what will be the assets that will be affected. The ISMS helps in identifying all of this. It helps in defining the controls that an organization should implement to solve those risks. It sets clear objectives. Those objectives can be nothing but the benefits that you can see to the right hand side of your screen. It helps the organization to understand what are the benefits that an ISMS can offer. Next, it helps them to come up with different risk-related treatment methods. It helps them in understanding the different monitoring controls, and it helps them in improving the ISMS framework that they are going to implement or they have already implemented. So understanding the benefits of the purpose of the ISMS or implementing the ISMSs, it protects an organization's clients and employee information. It ensures that the company's brand image and its reputation is protected. It ensures that GDPR is there in place. GDPR is also, how come GDPR is in the part of ISMS? So we'll see that in the next slide. So it helps in meeting contractual obligations. It helps in maintaining and protecting the data that is available on cloud or on premises, and how should an organization should respond in case of the emergence of different security threats. So that was the basic importance about why ISO 27001. From here on, we'll start with some important aspects of ISO 27001. So ISO 27001 has over 10 clauses. It has over 14 domains, and those 14 domains collectively incorporate for about 114 controls. So we'll start with different clauses, with understanding different controls gradually in next slides. So these are the different kind of clauses. So now it's why it starts from clause 4 when I say that there are 10 clauses. So the first 3 clauses are the generic clauses, wherein it is about understanding the terms and conditions about the organization, understanding the different objectives of the organization, and the introduction about the organization. So that those are the first 3 clauses, but according to the standard, 4 to 10 are the most important clauses. So what happens in clause 4, 5, 6, 7? We'll see that in detail in the next slide, but as you can see it on the screen, 4 is context of the organization, which helps to understand why the organization is going for ISO 27001. The clause 5 helps in understanding what should the leadership, which is the management, the CEO, CFOs of the organization, what role they play in the ISMS framework, or to get an organization ISMS certified, what leadership should do. The planning stage, wherein what should the organization do in terms of planning, the support that the implementation would need from the organization, the operations that would be involved, the performance evaluation, continuous improvement effects. All these are nothing but the different areas, the different clauses the terms that should be used is the clauses. These are the clauses. You need to remember that these are the clauses of the ISO IEC 27001 framework. Everything is based on these clauses. The controls are nothing but what falls under the different kinds of clauses that an organization should implement to protect its data, its people, its technology. So we'll see that one by one. But before going to that, we'll need to understand the important concept of the ISO 27001 framework, which is the plan, do, check, act cycle. So what is this plan, do, check, act cycle? Whenever we start developing a software, or whenever we start conducting a VAPT, we follow certain methodology. In ISO framework, plan, do, check, act is a kind of methodology that is followed. The planning covers understanding the context of the organization. Why is the organization going for ISO 27001 certification? What does it expect from the from the standard? How and what made the organization to choose ISO 27001 certification? And we as auditors, what should we focus in the planning area? The planning area also includes the involvement of leadership. It includes support. It includes planning in terms of collection of data, in terms of risk assessment, risk evaluation, preparing risk matrix. The do act is what the organization should perform, should start working on to get itself certified. What are the documents that the organization should start preparing is what falls under the do part of the PDCA cycle. Next is the check act. What should the organization do to make sure that the framework that they have implemented is meeting its objectives? It is doing everything that the organization. The act is how, now that the organization has planned, they have implemented the ISMS, and now that they are evaluating or monitoring the ISMS, how should they make sure that the ISMS is functioning the way they want it to, and what should they do to keep the consistency? They should look after the clause 10, which is improvement. Now, before understanding the clauses in detail, there are certain terms and concepts or definitions that we need to understand. So these are some of the terms and concepts that we need to understand. So what is audit scope? Audit scope is the boundaries that the organization decides. For example, the organization wants to implement ISO, or wants to consider certain department, for example, HR department, IT, software development, finance department, or any other department as part of its scope. The scope can be any department, any location. For example, the organization is based in Mumbai and its data center is in Chennai location. So whether the organization wants to include both the locations as part of their scope. So this is what falls under the scoping part. Audit scope is nothing but the extent or the boundaries which should be considered to perform an audit. Deciding a scope is completely on the organization's part. We as auditor cannot advise the organization that, oh, I feel that you should also include this in your scope. I feel that you should also include that particular location in our scope. The standard makes sure it is the organization's responsibility to decide the scope, and we as auditor are going to perform or audit on the basis of the scope that is decided. Conformity is fulfillment of a requirement. It is nothing but if the clause is following what the if the organization is following what the clause states. Continual improvement is what the organization does to improve its implemented ISMS framework. Any different risk mitigation methods the organization is taking. For example, the organization decides on installing CCTV. That would be a continual improvement method. The control is the other different controls that the organization focuses on. The control objective is whether the organization is achieving the control that they have decided to implement. Correction is nothing but an activity or an action that is implemented to detect or resolve a non-conformity. We'll understand what is non-conformity in the next slides. So documented information, the different kind of documents, for example, information security policy or any risk assessment matrix that the organization has prepared. Every documentation part comes into the documented information. External context is the external factors that affect the organization or refrain the organization to achieve its objectives or information security objectives. We need to understand the ISMS completely focuses on the information security of part. It is about how the organization should improve the ISMS in terms of the information security aspect. Everything is related to information security. Next are the interested parties. The person, the customers, the stakeholders can be the interested parties who will benefit from the organization. We need to make sure and we need to help the organization understand that the scope is something which when the organization finalizes, the ISO 27001 certification will be limited to just that scope. For example, the the organization considers the HR department and IT department in its scope, and it feels that after the certification is done, it wishes to add one more department, that is the software development department. The organization will not be certified for the newly added department. It will just be certified for the scope that was decided initially. To get the software development department certified, the organization needs to go through the entire process again. So we need to make sure that we help the organization understand that it is our responsibility to let the organization know that this is the final scope. And if you do not include something from the scope, it will not get certified. Only what you decide in the scope will get certified. So internal context is nothing but the objectives, the internal factors that affect the organization. For example, the internal and external factors, what are they? We'll understand in when I'll explain the clauses in detail. The level of risk is what will happen if a ransomware attack happens. What will happen if an espionage takes place? All these are the different kind of risks that can happen, and the magnitude of risk, the kind of data that will be lost because of ransomware. So it is a kind of risk. And what is the level of risk? The level to which the organization will get affected. Monitoring is to monitor the activities. For example, if you implement an SIEM, that will come under monitoring. Now, non-conformity. So conformity is achieving the requirements that are mentioned in the clause, and non-conformity is not being able to achieve or fulfill a requirement that is mentioned under a clause. A few more concepts. Performance is how the ISMS is performing. It can be quantitative findings, for example, providing a graph or a chart in terms of understanding how the ISMS is performing. Requirements are what the needs and expectations of the clause of the organization's point of view. Residual risk is, suppose an organization considers each and every risk. It evaluates all the threats, everything that can cause the ISMS to go wrong. and implement each and every control for the proper functioning of the ISMS. But there will always remain some risk, no matter what. That is what you call it as residual risk. Total risk minus the controls implemented is what will give you the residual risk. Review. Review is nothing but what we as auditors do to review the information security standard, how the organization has documented the different aspects of the ISMS documents that are needed, and how are the controls functioning. Is the organization actually following what it had stated in its policy documents, is what we will see in the review part. So and next is statement of applicability. Statement of applicability and gap analysis are two of the most important documents of ISMS. The statement of applicability is nothing but understanding if a control is applicable to the organization or to the scope or not. What the document includes is whether the scope is applicable, and if the organization says that yes, it is applicable to us, yes, we can implement a control related to physical security. So why do you think that it is important? You need to include a justification for that. Organization says that we do not need physical security, then why do you not need physical security, right? You need to include a justification for that as well. So that forms a statement of applicability document. Next is gap analysis. It gives idea to an auditor about what controls are in place, what processes are in place, what policy is in place, and what is not in place. So basically understanding the lacks information security lacks in an organization. So in this gap analysis, two things are important, which gives out two things: policy and procedure. Policy is something that the organization should follow, people in the organization should follow. For example, it is the HR policy. It is the HR policy that you have to submit your background detail or previous records to the previous organization's record. It is the policy of the organization. A policy is nothing but what should be done. A procedure is something how it should be done. How should an HR hire people? How should the resignation and termination thing takes place? That is a procedure. Next is risk, vulnerability, threat, and incident. Risk is nothing but the formula that we might all know, which is probability multiplied by the impact. So what is the probability of something happening? And if that some incident happens, what will be the impact of it? Vulnerability is the different loopholes or weaknesses, for example, SQL injection vulnerability or OWASP top 10 vulnerability, and how an attacker will exploit those vulnerabilities. Threat is something which is a negative action which was not calculated for, or which and it can action or an event that may result in an unwanted impact which was not calculated, which you didn't knew that something like this would happen. Incident is a breach of a system when for example someone trying to log into your or to an application through you by using administrator access, and it gets notified on the SIEM tool, that will be considered as a incident. So next, understanding the controls. So clauses and controls are the basis of the ISMS. So going through the clause 4, it states about understanding the context of the organization. So it involves why the organization is going for ISO 27001 certification, what the organization expects from this certification, what are the interested parties, the stakeholders. It is the organization's responsibility to inform their customers and their stakeholders and everyone involved in their supply chain or value chain that we are going for ISO 27001 certifications. You all will get such kind of benefits if we get certified. So please provide your cooperation. All this is what informs us about, all this is what gives information in the clause 4. It helps in determining the scope of the organization. Like I mentioned, the location, the processes, the technology, or the application that the organization wants to include as part of the ISMS scope is decided in the context of the organization, and how and what the organization will do to improve, or reiterative methods that the organization will use to improve its ISMS or maintain its ISMS, and stated in subclause 4.4. So the clause 4 helps us in understanding the context of the organization, what it does, basically the background information. So like I mentioned, internal and external factors. Now, these are the two extremely important concepts. Internal factors can be that policies, procedures, office locations, change in office location, or a new technology has been incorporated, a new department has been incorporated, infrastructure upgrade has been incorporated. Such kind of parameters form internal factors that will influence an organization to go for ISO 27001 certification. Next are the external factors. It can be because of political concerns. It can be regulatory. For example, a client will say that how does you as an organization will protect our data, or will ensure smooth transactioning. So it falls under the regulatory context, the PII data, the card data. Such kind of factors can also influence the organization to go for ISO 27001 certification. Next is the leadership. So leadership plays a huge role because we as auditors need to collect some important documents, we need to conduct some important meetings from meetings within the organization. So what does the leadership do? The leadership makes sure that the employees in its organization are aware that the organization is going for such and such certification. They need to make sure the CEOs, the MDs, the management, they need to make sure that the people are aware why they need ISO 27001 certification, why their organization will need ISO 27001 certification, and how the certification will help them in generating more revenue, or keeping itself safe from any emerging cyber threats. So it is the leadership's responsibility to build that trust, right? Because whenever an email comes from your CEO or your MD, you eventually know that this is something very important, right? You as employee will know that, oh, my management is saying this, I have to do it. It is really important. So that is the reason that the leadership should be involved. It is the leadership's responsibility to motivate and to spread the awareness about the ISMS and the importance about this ISMS. ISMS, it is also important because implementing an ISMS brings cultural change. Your entire process will change. The way your organization will function, it completely changes because of the implementation of ISMS. So that's why the leadership's commitment is important. Next, the important aspect is policy. So what is this policy? Policy is having an information security policy in place. An organization, even if the organization is not going for certification, but still the organization, any organization that you are working in or probably will be working in, should make sure that they have an information security policy in place, even if they are not going for ISO 27001 certification. So what does this policy includes? It includes different kind of aspects. For example, policies related to acceptable use policy, mobile device policy, electronic messaging policy, social media related to acceptable usage of internet, terms and conditions policy, privacy policy, information classification policy. All of this falls under the information security policy. It is the overall amalgamation of different kind of aspects of information security. So if an organization has appointed a CISO, it is the CISO's responsibility to prepare such information security policy. If a CISO is not in place, then a cyber team should prepare the information security policy. If the cybersecurity team is not available, then the organization should appoint a person in a particular team who in the IT team who will work on preparing the information security policies and other documents. Next is the organizational roles and responsibilities. It is the management's responsibility to include different kind of roles and responsibilities that the employees are allowed to perform. Next is planning. So planning, clause 6 includes the most important area, that is risk assessment. Risk assessment is the important aspect because it involves identifying the different areas, the different important assets, maybe the different server that are highly critical, the technologies, the applications that are highly critical to the organization, and the associated risk. What will happen if there is a downtime? What will happen if a server, a backup of that server is not generated? What if the organization does not have a backup policy in place? What will happen if a ransomware attack takes place? All this is done in the planning thing. The organization should do the due diligence in terms of risk assessment and try to achieve and implement different methods to overcome those risks. Planning is nothing but deciding everything. You have to decide what will happen if this goes wrong, what will happen if that goes wrong. And if something goes wrong, how will you make sure that the organization is still functioning? You need to plan everything. That is clause 6. So it gives you the important aspects about risk management process, which is identifying the risk, assessing the risk, controlling the risk, and reviewing the controls. These are the 4 areas of risk assessment, wherein you, like I mentioned, you identify the risk associated to your important servers, important assets. You assess those risks, that you evaluate those risk, whether if something goes wrong, what will happen if your server fails, or if there is no backup, or if there is no enough system or server hardening in place, what will happen? You put different controls in terms of you install a IDS IPS or a firewall that will be, or you introduce encryption, or you incorporate DLP. All these are certain kind of controls that you implement to handle your risk. Once you implement those controls, you see how those controls are functioning, whether any anomalies are detected in the IDS IPS, unwanted traffic is getting filtered in the firewall or not. You review it. So in these aspects, the risk management process takes place, as you can see it on the slide. The next clause is, so risk assessment process is the part of clause 6. Next, clause 7. So what does clause 7 do? Clause 7 is about providing support. Now that you have the objectives, now that you have the leadership's commitment, now that you have everything is being planned, but now you need the support. Support in terms of resources. Resources means what? Maybe you need more people. Maybe you need more budget. Maybe you need some important technology in place. Maybe you need a tool to assess the functioning. All these falls under the support. It is the organization's responsibility to provide these resources to its employees. It involves competence. What is competence? Competence in terms of skilled people, in terms of experienced people, in terms of qualified people. That it is the organization's responsibility to validate that the people are qualified enough to do that job, right? Next is awareness. Is the organization aware in providing enough training to their employees? Does the organization conduct phishing awareness training, for example? All this is covered in the awareness aspect. What does the organization do to keep or make the people aware about information security, right? Communication is, for example, if anything goes wrong, the employees should be aware whom should they get in touch with, whom should they get in touch with for um, any additional resource if they need something, if they need upgradation, if they need software upgradation or any services upgradation, whom should they communicate in the organization. Next, the communication aspect also includes, if anything goes wrong, if a ransomware attack happens within an organization, who should be the one who will communicate to the media, to its employee, and to the entire organization. Even that falls under the communication aspect. You or me as an employee cannot randomly just spread it that our organization witnessed a ransomware attack. No, there should be an authentic PR person in place who will just interact, whose responsibility will be to interact with the media, whose responsibility will be to interact with the employees. That also falls under the communications part. And that is why even roles and responsibilities defining part is important. Next is documenting information. All that you do should be documented. Whatever has been covered in all the above clauses, right from information security policy, risk assessment policy, risk assessment process, everything should be documented. Documentation is nothing but the evidence, the proof that you are doing something which we as auditors will evaluate, right? So that covers the clause 7 aspect. Next is clause 8. So clause 8 is about operations. Now, what does clause 8 focus on? The clause 8 focus on what will happen if an organization needs to incorporate or implement a change. Who will be involved for the change management process? Who will be involved in the patch management process? All this falls under the operations category. Like, for example, now you can see that 8.2 information security assessment and 8.3 information security risk treatment. But the same subclauses were also present in clause 6, right? So what is the difference between clause 6 and clause 8, as both the clauses have risk assessment? So like I said, in clause 6, you will just plan about your risk. In clause 8, you will actually implement the risk treatment plan. For example, in clause 6, you decided that I want to incorporate or implement a firewall. In clause 8, as per clause 8, you will actually implement that firewall. So in clause 6, you decide. In clause 8, you perform. If you can remember our PD CA cycle, you will be able to analyze this. Next is performance evaluation. Performance evaluation is how the organization is evaluating the performance of its ISMS, whether it is using any monitoring tools, how it is functioning in the key security area, what are the different kind of evaluations that can take place to evaluate the functioning of the ISMS. It can do the evaluation can be done using two types. It can be performance based evaluation and effectiveness of those measurements. So what is performance based evaluation or performance measurements? It is planning everything, trying to achieve that whatever you have planned. If comparing that, oh, I had planned to implement a information security policy, whether now I have whether that task is completed or not will be evaluated. Effectiveness is how effectively is the information security be a policy being followed by the organization. It is the CISOs or the management's responsibility to make sure that the availability of an information security policy is being circulated amongst the employees, so that they know that we have this information security policy in place. So in effectiveness measurement, the policies and the ISMS objectives are evaluated. The next important aspect is internal audit. Now, what is this internal audit? Organizations perform all these tasks, but they also need to have an internal audit team who will evaluate whether the organization is performing everything as per the clauses. There are two types of audit: internal audit and external audit. External audits are majorly done by third parties, and internal audits are mostly done by the internal teams or the teams who are not at all related to the daily functioning of the organization. A CISO cannot be part of an internal audit. A team should totally, the internal audit team should be totally different of an organization to conduct the internal audit, right? Because again, roles and responsibilities aspects comes into picture. If the CISO in itself is performing the internal audit, the organization will get a non-conformity in that situation, right? So that covers the internal audit area. So two important aspects are important in the internal audit area. We as auditors should, or whenever we go for checking or auditing an organization for ISO 27001 audit, certification, we should always make sure that we ask the organization for previous year's internal audit report or the previous internal audit report. This will help us in understanding what the organization did in terms of it audit, how was it standing for its audit in the previous year, and were there any lacks identified. We as auditors will be able to identify all of this in internal audit. Management review is the management considers how the organization is functioning or whether the tasks are achieved or not. Next is clause 10, improvement. So in this comes the improvement aspect. How can the organization, now that the organization has done everything in terms of ISMS, but ISMS, we need to remember that it is not that the organization went for certification, the organization got ISO 27001 certified, and now everything is done. Nothing is left. No. Once an organization go for ISMS certification, in every 3 years, there is a re-audit. So the organization should practice ISO 27001 till the end. It is an ongoing process. It cannot happen that the organization is now certified and it will be certified forever. No, if the organization is not involved in continuous improvement and if the auditor identifies any kind of flaws, the organization can still get non-conformity for that. So every 3 years, there is a re-audit and the organization should follow and practice everything that they had promised. You cannot just promise and say that I will do it and get certified. No, there will be a re-audit, there will be a re-visit wherein the auditor will check whether what you promised is being implemented or not. So there are different, in the improvement aspect, there is two key areas, that is non-conformity and continual improvement. So non-conformity is when certain requirements of any of the clauses are not met. For that, the organization, to handle those non-conformities, the organization takes different kind of actions: correction, preventive, and corrective action. Correction is accepting that there is a non-conformity, that yes, I was not able to perform something. Preventive is different, making sure that this action does not happen anywhere else. And corrective action is making sure that the flaws does not occur. Preventive is making sure that it never happens and anywhere in the process. Continual improvement is, like I said, should always check on its employees, should always revisit its information security policies and things like that. Next would be about understanding the controls. So in middle of that, Kaushik, if you have some insights or you wanted to share.
Yeah, I think we almost out of time. We can just finish off the PPT because we just have 3 minutes left up. So we can finish off the PPT and I'll introduce it at the end. That's fine.
All right, all right. So the key and the final most aspect about ISO is the, like I said, 27002, which are the controls of ISO 27001. So yeah, understanding the controls. It is also known as the Annexure A. So these are nothing but there are total 14 domains, and these 14 domains have form up to 114 controls. So these are the 14 domains and there are 114 controls, cumulative controls. So information security policies is nothing but the different kind of information security policies that I mentioned, the procedures that the organization should have in place. A6 is Organization of Information Security. It involves that the organization should have clear definition of roles and responsibilities, who should be contacted in terms of any attack, segregation of duties, contact groups, and things like that. It also have mobile device and teleworking and things like that. So human security, human resource security, it involves activities to perform prior to employment, during employment, and termination of employment. Asset assessment, asset management is having an asset inventory, who will be responsible for handling those assets, and information classification, how media should be, media handling, backup handling, and everything takes place in asset management. Next is access control. It involves user access management, user responsibility, how users and should access the different privileges that are given to the users in terms of access rights, in terms of administrator access, and everything like that. Cryptography is assigning encryption, decryption, and key management falls under cryptography. Physical and environmental security is nothing but incorporating controls related to secure areas. For example, installing CCTV in secure areas, how to secure offices. For example, how will you secure data centers in your office, right? You will incorporate biometrics on that office. You will place a security guard outside your data center. So things like that. Operations security is task performed in terms of change management, backup management, logging and monitoring. All this falls under protection from malware. All this falls under the operations security category. Communications security is network security management. How will you ensure security in terms of information transfer? Such things falls under communication security. System acquisition and development and maintenance. It will cover development and support processes. For example, system change control procedure, technical review of applications. Technical review would be performing VAPT. So all this protecting applications wherein transactions is involved. For example, card holder data, PCI DSS, and everything, incorporating and implementing VAPT in terms of these areas falls under A14. Supplier relationship is even assessing your suppliers. If you are procuring or having your cloud data on another cloud service provider, so in terms of even assessing that cloud service provider, wherein vendor risk assessment, third party risk assessment falls under this A15. A16 is information security incident management. It is nothing but incorporation of SIEM tools, logging event and anomalies in the SIEM tool, monitoring that SIEM tool and event logs generated in that tool falls under A16. So what I'm listing all of this is the controls that falls under these 14 domains. A17 is information security aspect of business continuity. Like I said, the key aspect of ISO is CIA. A stands for availability. So business continuity in terms of power outage, in terms of flooding, any natural man-made threat. In despite of that, how will the organization will function? For example, having remote work policy. If a outage, power cut takes place, can the employees go home and work from home? So that will be a business continuity control. Compliance will be like if you remember in the previous slides, I mentioned about how ISO also includes EU GDPR. So it also includes a control in terms of protection of personally identifiable information. So if the organization is GDPR certified, this will be incorporated. So moving towards the last thing, that is the career opportunities. So you as people can see if if your organization itself has openings related to that. You can have a word with your mentors in your organization. If you can get involved in something related to policing, drafting, or is the organization going towards ISO 27001 certification? Can you be involved in that part? Can you be involved in the internal audit team? All these other career opportunities. You can go towards attending different webinars, explore different ideas about ISO 27001 certification. So every organization, even if they are not going for certification, they still need all of these aspects prepared. So you can have word with them. You can search ISO 27001 jobs that are highly in demand these days, and you can prepare what would be needed. From the interviews point of view, they basically ask you at the initial level, what are the different clauses, list some clauses that we discussed today, similar to what we discussed today, different controls like the 14 control domains that we discussed. What will be the different controls that will be implemented in the domains? Like I said, implementation of securing areas and everything falls under those controls. What do you know basically about ISMS? Give me an overview about ISMS. What are the different kind of internal factors, external factors, are something the questions they ask. So yeah, that's it. That was the idea and understanding about ISO. And yeah, that's it. So yes, Kaushik, if you can.
Yeah, all right. Speaking about career opportunities, we've shared a couple of links in the chat window. Antwork runs a full-fledged 16-week cybersecurity boot camp program with placement guarantee as well. So there is Ruda's link today. So I strongly recommend you guys to register. It's for free. The course structures and everything is available on the link. There is a free brochure which is downloadable that you can have a look through. And my recommendation is to register as soon as possible. On the other hand, Ruda, thank you so much for today's session. ISO 27001 is sort of a very theoretical based topic, but I think the way the content has been put through in today's day was quite fine. And it was kind of understandable as well. Guys, there's a quick survey which is on front of your screen about today's masterclass. Would be great if you guys could quickly kind of cast your votes. On the other hand, for people who want the recording, it will be available on the Antwork's event page in the next 2 to 3 days. And whatever email address you've used to register for this event, that email address will receive the certificate as well. But on the other hand, I'd strongly recommend you guys to check out the link, paste it in the chat window, and quickly register for our program. We have our 5th batch, which is going to start tomorrow, and then we have another batch. So the batch is going pretty strong. And cybersecurity in itself is having tremendous scope these days. So that's the best hot selling pancake in the industry today, and my strong urges for that. And yes, the last 1 minute, if you guys can complete the feedback, that would be great. On the other hand, Ruda, thank you so much for coming on Antwork's platform. It's really been a pleasure hosting you. And I look forward to many more events in the future with you as well.
Yes, thank you so much, Kaushik. And thanks to everyone. I hope you enjoyed the session. Yes, it was a little bit theoretic, but once you start reading about it, the standard is available. You can read about it. But once you get a hang of it, it is pretty easy. Invest some time in just listening to podcasts or webinars, and you'll get a hang of it. So it is a bit theoretical, but it is something must have and highly in demand. So do give it a shot, and all the best.